This is the Caterpillar D9 Bulldozer, a key player in the Israeli Defense Forces. Beyond its civilian duties, this machine has an untold story of military adaptation. But how did a standard bulldozer evolve into a tactical asset on the battlefield? And for which secret missions does the IDF require such a monster? The Caterpillar D9 Bulldozer is an absolute beast even before Israel starts adding its own modifications. While exact details of which stock models Israel buys are state secrets, I will infer for the sake of this video that Israel buys D9 bulldozers from Caterpillar with every available bell and whistle on it. With those formalities out of the way, let's dive into some of the basic dimensions of this monster. From the front of the blade tip to the back of the ripper in the rear of the vehicle, the D9 has an overall length of almost 27 feet. The D9 is approximately 12.5 feet tall from the bottom of the tracks to the top of the exhaust stack. Its width is just under 9.5 feet from track to track. Besides being very large, the D9 weighs a ton. According to Caterpillar, standard models without anything added to them or inside them weigh just over 42 tons. However, with the addition of a blade, a ripper, 254 gallons of fuel, 24 gallons of hydraulic fluid, refrigeration coolant, and fall-over protection system, a rollover protection system, and the operator, the standard model weighs in right at 55 tons. But of course, the weight continues to climb due to Israel's addition of various armor packages. Once standard models are received in Israel, the military begins converting these civilian vehicles into weapons of war. The primary means of doing so is by adding heavy armor plating around all parts of the vehicle, including the undercarriage. While the exact dimensions of this armor package are unknown, it is known to add about 15 tons of extra weight. In addition to this armor plating, Israel also began adding slated armor on top of these plates to protect the cabin, called the cockpit in Israel, from tandem charge warheads like RPGs and anti-tank missiles. All told, these armor upgrades bring the final weight to an astonishing 70 tons. This weight makes it on par with Israel's main battle tank, the Merkava, which weighs around 65 tons before taking on a combat load of fuel, ammunition, and people. In addition to adding armor, Israel also added another seat to the cockpit. While stock models have a driver, the modified D9s have a second seat for the vehicle commander to sit. Additionally, Israel has equipped some D9s with a heavy machine gun on top of the cockpit, as well as grenade launchers and smoke launchers to provide a screen. With such a large, bulky vehicle, there certainly has to be a powerful engine underneath the hood. Powering this beast is a CAT C18 six-cylinder diesel engine with an output of 452 horsepower. This equates to a power ratio of about 6.5 horsepower per ton. While this is certainly not good enough for a main battle tank, it is quite impressive for such a heavily armored bulldozer. Depending on which gear the driver puts the D9 into, the dozer can reach a maximum speed of 6.8 miles per hour forward and 8.4 miles per hour in reverse. The hydraulic system can also be used to control a variety of attachments and blades. The D9 has two main blade options. It can either use a semi-universal blade or a universal blade. The main difference between the two is the size. The universal blade is slightly larger, with it weighing in at 6 tons versus 5 tons and having an increased carry capacity of 21.7 cubic yards of material versus 17.8 cubic yards. The universal blade stands 6.3 feet tall and can penetrate the earth to a maximum of 2 feet per scoop. In the rear of the vehicle, the Israeli military can choose from one of several rippers. These rippers are designed to penetrate deep into the earth and break through hardened surfaces like concrete and asphalt. The D9 has 3 ripper attachments that can be added. These are single shank, multi-shank, and the single shank deep ripping. Each has its own benefits. The single shank deep ripping component can penetrate just over 5.5 feet into the earth with an astonishing 38,600 foot-pounds of force. With such a powerful attachment, the D9 can easily tear up almost any material it encounters in the field. As far as operating the vehicle, the D9 has numerous features that ensure a safe and smooth operation. It has its own onboard fire suppression system and can be equipped with 360-degree cameras. Each of the 4 cameras provides high-definition viewing to the driver. The D9 is also very loud, registering in at a constant 116 decibels. Operators must use robust hearing protection when inside the cockpit to protect their hearing and to be able to communicate with one another. But even with such a powerful piece of equipment, the D9 today has been developed over 7 decades of trial and error by Israeli forces. First introduced in 1954, the Caterpillar D9 heavy bulldozer has been a commercial success for the company. But while many companies saw the utility of such a heavy dozer, the early IDF saw a clear military opportunity. In the mid-1950s, Israel was still building its defense industrial base and weaning itself off of World War II hand-me-downs. As a result, it saw the powerful dozer as a way to conduct complex engineering operations that just needed a few minor modifications to make it survivable in the field. After purchasing a few dozen of them from Caterpillar, these first saw combat use during the 1956 Suez Crisis. These vehicles were instrumental in not only clearing paths through minefields the Egyptian military had set up, but also breaching the giant earth berms they had erected to defend the Sinai Peninsula. Once D9s had breached the earth berm, several others came in behind them towing portable bridges that were then laid across numerous wadis or streams Egyptian troops had their backs against. Since this early use, the IDF continued using D9 bulldozers in every conflict. The D9 has seen action during the Six-Day War, the 1973 Yom Kippur War, the 1982 invasion of Lebanon, the First and Second Intifadas, and the current conflict in Gaza today. While the D9 has been used in combat for nearly the past 70 years, it has not stayed the same model. Numerous models have been introduced into the Israeli military since its inception. The 2 oldest models still in service are the D9L and the D9N. These older D9s have less advanced armor packages and less powerful engines than the modern-day D9R, which entered service beginning in the early 2000s. And just as Israel has changed its armor and technology packages for the D9, it has also modified its tactics. During the early years of its use, the IDF used the D9 to breach berms, tow heavy equipment, and clear routes through minefields. Over the years, these core uses have remained while other tactics have been modified to meet emerging threats on the battlefield. For example, during the 1982 Lebanon War, it was common for retreating Palestine Liberation Organization forces to rig buildings for demolition. Instead of sending soldiers into the buildings and risking their lives, the D9 bulldozers went in first to demolish the structures and set off any explosives before other troops searched the rubble for any useful intelligence. As the Israeli military took a break from high-intensity conflict and fought Palestinian insurgents during the First and Second Intifadas, a new strategy emerged. During these conflicts, it was common for insurgents to fortify themselves in houses and continue fighting until they were killed. Israel wanted to avoid collateral damage by pounding the buildings with airstrikes, so instead they would send D9 bulldozers to literally tear down houses with insurgents still in them. Moving forward to today, the Israeli military now integrates D9s into its battle strategy for combat in heavily urbanized environments like the Gaza Strip. For example, during an assault on, say, an orchard, the Israeli infantry first cordons off the area. Then the D9s come through with their blades and rippers. Under cover of Israeli infantry, the D9s will advance and knock down trees while also plowing up the earth behind them with their rippers. By doing this, the Israeli troops can then advance through known good lanes. The same tactic can also be used in tight city streets. If Israeli troops are taking fire from a hard point, a D9 bulldozer can be called up to clear a path through the buildings on opposite sides of the street, so Israeli troops can advance through the buildings without being exposed to fire from the hardpoint. Engineering battalions are also frequently used to destroy Hamas tunnel shafts in the Gaza Strip. Blowing up tunnels can cause a large amount of collateral damage to civilian structures and set off unintended secondary explosions. Instead, these dozers sometimes bury tunnel entrances with earth to seal them off. Due to the many successful uses on the battlefield and a mainstay in Israeli tactics in urban combat, the IDF decided to take the D9 to the next level. Israel's best upgrades to the D9 include its Iron Fist active protection system. The Iron Fist is a smaller version of its infamous Trophy active protection system on tanks and armored vehicles. For the D9, the system consists of 4 main components. The main eyes and ears of the system are a series of RF and passive infrared sensors. A series of cameras surround the vehicle that provide a 360-degree coverage during both day and night combat operations. As part of the sensor package, an integral system detects where small arms fire is coming from. The system itself has both passive and active means to destroy incoming threats. On the missile launcher is a built-in jammer meant to disrupt signals to remote-controlled IEDs as well as guided missiles. The main control unit inside the DC-9 is like the brains of the system that decides if an incoming projectile is a threat, and if so, what to use against it. If the system decides a hard kill must be achieved, the Iron Fist can fire an interceptor missile at the threat to blow it up before it reaches the dozer. Unfortunately, not every dozer is armed with the system just yet. Due to cost, reports from the battlefield show that only the newer D9R versions have it installed, while other older reserve models don't yet. However, it is likely as hostilities continue in the Gaza Strip, more D9s will be equipped with it. Another innovative technology is the D9T variant. This variant entered service several years ago and is a completely remote-controlled version. The D9T is intended for the most dangerous missions a D9 could face, like clearing an IED-infested road or demolishing a house rigged with explosives. It is unclear how many are currently in service, but news reports indicate the IDF wants as many of these vehicles as fast as the industry can produce them for use in Gaza today. As the history of the D9 has shown, its versatility on the battlefield is unparalleled. With continued Israeli technological advances, this Bulldozer will become nightmare fuel for any would-be terrorist for generations to come. Bye for now.